Hello, this is Jace Fugate with another session of the Introduction to the Go Programming Language course. So today we're going to be talking more about for loops. We're going to be talking about the infinite for loop, and then we're also going to talk about two other control statements that you can use within loops. So I already have my project set up here, and I'm going to uncomment this infinite for loop. Let's go ahead and run this. You'll notice that it keeps printing out the word infinite. And it does exactly what you would expect. For, and it just keeps going. In some programming languages, this is a no-no. You don't want this to ever happen. But in Go, because these are used for a lot of long-running programs, this is completely acceptable if you're using it on purpose. So infinite loop will just continue to keep running and running and running and never stop, unless you were to put in a break in there. So let's run this again. You'll notice this time it's only going to happen. It's only going to run once. It'll break and then it'll continue through. And so a break statement breaks out of a for loop. We have another example here below of how you can use a break statement. So in this case, we have num gets initialized to 1, and we want to do this loop as long as num is less than or equal to 100, and then we increment num each iteration. Then we have an if statement here, and we want to say, hey, is the first positive number divisible by both 3 and 5 is. So do a check here. We say, hey, is num divisible by 3? Or you could also say num mod 3 equal to 0, or num mod 5, or is this number divisible by 5. If this condition evaluates as true, we print, and then we just break out of the for loop. Let's go ahead and run this. So we'll see it says the first positive number divisible by both 3 and 5 is 15. And so this for loop happens and just keeps chugging along as you would expect until this break statement runs. And once that break statement gets hit, it immediately jumps out, just like we saw in this infinite for loop. It immediately jumps out and continues down the rest of the program. So a break statement does exactly what it says. It breaks out of a for loop. Now we have another control flow keyword called continue. And so this has a familiar for loop. It's num is equal to 1. We run this as long as num is less than or equal to 10, and then we increment at the end. And we say here, well, if num is divisible by 2, or if num mod 2 is 0, we continue. And what continue means is we skip everything else, and we just go straight to the statement and iterate again. So let's go and run this. There you go. It printed out all of the odd numbers between 0 and 10 exclusive. So it prints out, or I guess I should say it does 1. Well, num mod 2, sorry, 1 modulus 2 does not equal 0, so it does not run this, and it prints. And it goes, increments num to 2, and now 2 mod 2 is equal to 0. You hit this continue, you skip everything else, you go to the next iteration, and it runs through. So continue does exactly what it sounds like it should do. It continues the loop and skips everything else after it. Very similar to a break statement, except for a break statement breaks out of a loop completely and skips everything else behind it until it gets to the ending of the for loop and then continues through. So if we run both of these, we'll have the first positive number, and then we have all of the odd numbers. So here are just some of the other ways that we can do some control flow within for loops. Play with this, see what you can, see what you cannot do with this. These are very useful and can help you solve some pretty tricky problems. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you again.